These are the 4 questions to focus your teaching. I had a professor who used to tell me that if I didn't teach intentionally, I would always teach the way I was taught. And so these are the things that you can do to bring consistency to your teaching by asking these 4 questions for every single unit you go into. Question number 1, what? What is the content your students need to know? How does it fit into the course as a whole? You need to decide what's important, what's not. That's the first thing. What are you going to teach? Number 2, how? How are you going to teach it? Are you doing a lecture? Are you doing activities? Are you doing labs? Are you going to try to do it inductively? How are you going to present it to your students in such a way that they can learn it? How are you going to take it from what you know to something that they can understand? And how do you bring it into their language and give it to them? Third question, practice. How are you going to help your students practice it? What tools are you going to use to give it? Is it going to be handouts? Is it going to be labs, activities, homework, classwork, guided classwork, student participation? Student coaching? How are you going to use it to practice and review so they're ready for their assessments? Which brings us to the 4th question, assess. How are you going to assess them? Are you going to assess them by making them do a lab report? Are you going to assess them by giving a test, quizzes? Are they going to do a keynote or PowerPoint presentation? Are they going to create a movie? Other types of projects? There are a lot of different ways that you can assess. And I think it's so easy for us to default to doing tests and quizzes when there are other ways that we can assess them. And at this point, we're also trying to think about how we're going to grade it. So in summary, we need to figure out what we're going to teach, how we're going to teach, how to practice it, and how to assess it. If we actually are intentional at answering these 4 questions before we start a unit, then I think it makes us a better teacher because we are more focused on what our goal is. Because if we know how we're going to assess it, then that influences how we're going to practice it. And if we know how we're going to practice, that influences how we're going to teach it, which will in fact shape what we're going to teach. So all of these work together to make us focused and engaging teachers. So 2 questions to close this out. Which one of these do you take for granted and need to be more intentional about? Like I mentioned earlier, doing quizzes and tests as your assessment. Is there another way to make an assessment? Do you make assumptions about how you're going to teach it, that it's always lecture? Is there another way to do it? And then which one of these is hardest? Which one do you kind of get in a rut on that you need to be pushed on? Leave some comments below and we'll try to have a conversation about it.